Everybody, I'm excited to have Elaine on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about a really cool business, very unique business, if I may say so myself. And so I'm excited for her to share about it. But before we do that, Elaine, tell us like where you live, what you like to do for fun, just a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name's Elaine Kinney. I currently live in the Portland, Maine area. Um, and I typically like spend a lot of my free time brewery hopping with friends. The state is really known for tons of different breweries. Microbreweries have just popped up everywhere. So we like to explore that with friends. I do a lot of tabletop board games. I like to go to the gym and strength train. I listen to a lot of music,
I just
and
feel
I
like
make soap.
we are gonna be best friends because I like all of those things too. Before we go into your business, what's your favorite game right now?
Oh, I just got really addicted to Hive.
Oh,
We
I have not played that one.
Oh, you've got to play it. It's like one of those games that's very simple to learn, but there's a ton of strategy. Like very easy to learn, very difficult to master,
Mm.
but like
Ooh.
exciting in a good
I've
way.
got my brother has a collection of probably like 50 to 60 of them. So with
Mm,
half of them he's never played. So let's just put that out there, everybody. Like
yeah.
um but I'll have to ask him if he has that one. So
Yeah.
awesome.
See, that's the problem with board game people is we like just collect them and then we don't get
I
around to
know.
playing any of them more than once.
Well, and that other problem is you have to find like the right people to play with too. Like,
Yeah,
there are people who
absolutely.
love them, and then there's people who do not love them, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
you have to find your people. So,
Hmm.
all right. So you already kind of talked about it. Soap. You also talked about breweries. So tell us
Yeah.
about, like, tell everybody about your business. What do you do?
Right. Yeah. Kind of because I live in Maine, I jumped into this entrepreneurship adventure where I'm the sole owner and founder of White Pine Bath and Brew. And with that, I design luxury vegan skincare. And the specialization and focus is really on palm-free soap made from craft beer. So I use the local beer from the breweries in our area, which there's just no end to.
Right.
And I actually turn that into soap instead of using water, which is the typical liquid that you would use in the process chemically.
That's crazy. So
Yeah.
I have so many questions. First of all, where did this idea come from?
So I can't take credit. I'm not the
Mhm.
first person to do this. But there's
Okay.
not a lot of people that do it. A few years back, I had a friend teach me how to make soap, and that's how she had learned to do it. Um,
With beer.
and with beer, yeah. Because
Okay.
she had sort of done it as a hobby job, but she was kind of like, I'm ready to move on to the next hobby.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
this is shortly before COVID.
Uh-huh.
So I had kind of had a little bit of the tool set under my belt,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just looking for that career change. And then
Mm-hmm.
COVID shut down the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe this is now or never. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're working from home. This is like
Right.
the time to be working for yourself because
Right.
everything else is just like, you're at home already. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to pull the plug. And so I started the business, and the beer thing is cool just because it's such a part of the culture here. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
it gives me a way to connect with the community and support the other local businesses, which is really
Uh-huh.
fun. And again, you like such an important part about having a small business is knowing how to niche down
Oh,
and
totally.
set yourself apart. And there's a ton of people that make really great soap around here,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to find something that sets yourself apart. So this was like a great way for me to not only connect with Mainers in particular, but find something that made my soap special.
Yeah, for sure. I had never heard of it before.
Hmm.
And so, which I imagine I can't be the only one who has never heard of
No, most
soap made
people
with
don't know
beer.
about it.
Um, so then, so my other question is, so when you go to these microbreweries, are you known as like the soap lady? Like, that's what.
A couple.
Okay.
I'm not super well known yet, but I mean that's kind of the goal is to kind of work with as many as I can
Mm-hmm.
and kind of make those connections because um it helps both of our businesses if I
Mm-hmm.
can throw them some publicity by saying, hey, we're using
Totally.
this company's beer. And maybe it's like a customer's favorite brewery. So that's like
Mm-hmm.
kind of exciting. And then they get some credit. And obviously, like it helps me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
also do a lot of work with breweries to help them. I'm trying to do more of helping them reduce waste. Like I buy the
Oh,
beer
cool.
from them when I can, but I also like if they have short fills or beer that's just like a little past its fresh point that they don't really want to sell, but there's nothing really wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as like using it in the soap goes, I can use that and then it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more of like a reducing the waste there
Yeah,
and kind of
that's
helping
awesome.
everybody.
That's awesome. So, I mean, it sounds like you've kind of like educated yourself, one, on how to make soap with it, but then
Yeah.
also even like on beer itself and like how it
Hmm.
works and like when it's past its prime, things like that. Are those things that you had always kind of known and then you've been able to implement, or have you been like
No.
learning on the go?
Oh, I've been very much learning on the go. Everything
Okay.
about like entrepreneurship has been like, ah, okay, I guess I better figure this out like on the fly. And it's
Yeah.
amazing like how much you just like have to throw yourself into it, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and you don't know. I was just talking to somebody yesterday. I was like, who was feeling like a lot of imposter syndrome, and I was like,
Oh my word,
you've
yeah.
just joined like the club of a bunch of people who feel that. Like,
Oh my word,
like
yes.
so even people I know who are like multi-million dollar makers still feel it too. So it's not like it's
Yeah.
something that like goes away totally.
No.
So um I'm curious, so like you jumped in around the COVID time. What was some of
Hmm.
like the biggest challenges that you faced?
I honestly like the biggest thing, probably you'd think it would be COVID, right?
Mhm.
I think if anything, it was more the imposter syndrome though.
Mhm.
It's really like battling yourself with being an entrepreneur and like going into it with honestly very little confidence that I could pull it
Mhm.
off, but just knowing that I needed an out and being willing to like throw myself into it and figure it out was like
Mhm.
the thing that got me through it because I feel like, there's certainly been a lot of times where I've had like batch after batch fail as I'm figuring it
Mhm.
out and like honing the craft. And you're just like, am I just like lying to myself? And like all these people that are like, you can do it. I'm like, am I just wasting that or the money you invest in equipment? And then
Mhm.
you're like, oh no, I suck. But I think like honestly, like kind of building that confidence and like learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and like learning to
Mhm.
fail and like not let that be the end of the world in your head has
Mhm.
been the biggest
Mhm.
difficulty, especially
Totally.
early on.
I feel you. Even like I'm 5 years in, and last night I was laying in bed and I told my husband, I was like, "Can you just tell me that I do great work and I'm a great person?"
Yeah.
Like, he was
Yeah.
like, "You do great work and you're a great person." And I was like, "I just need a confidence booster because
Yeah.
you're right. Like sometimes we get to where we are and we're like, am I kidding myself that I can
Hmm.
do this?" Like, and that's a hard place to be in. So,
Yeah.
um what have been some of like the best things of doing your business?
I think connecting with the people, I mean, in addition to just like working on yourself, I feel like you change so much and your world changes so much whenever you dive into small business. And it's such a big part of the community here where like there's so
Mhm.
many small businesses in Maine that I don't know, it just gives you a way to connect with them. So for me, it was like not only am I like building this confidence, it's giving me these relationships. I've met the most incredible people that are like in the
Mhm.
same boat and willing to collaborate and do
Mhm.
it's like kind of work together, which I think has been really cool because I think when I went into the business, I didn't have any business major or background. I
Mhm.
didn't really like have that preset of skills. I went into it thinking everything was going to be competitive and
Mhm.
kind of cutthroat and like people were going to try to like mess you up to get ahead and like I
Mhm.
don't know, I just like watched too much Succession. But but I
Yeah.
think I just didn't realize how much space there was for community. And
Mhm.
that's been so eye-opening to realize like people want to work together. People don't um necessarily want to see you fail and it's been amazing, just like the friendships and relationships and community of small
Mhm.
business owners that are willing to like work together in this area.
Mhm.
It's been really, really special to be a part of that.
Well, and what I love is that I'm sure people across well, I shouldn't say I'm sure. I would imagine that you sell to people anywhere, or is it only local people?
No, I mean it's within the states, anywhere within the
Okay.
states.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And so
definitely primarily Mainers because they get the beer aspect of it on a
oh,
more
totally.
personal level.
Well, what you need to do is you need to go to Wisconsin. So that's
Oh,
I'm gonna send your website to all my. I used to live in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin loves their beer also. So
oh.
I think that would be a really interesting market. But anyway, I think like how cool that like while you can sell anywhere in the states, like you have like just created these deep roots into the community
Hmm.
because even this collaboration with other breweries, like what a cool way to like cross promote each other. So
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm curious, like what when you tell people like what you do, how do they react?
I usually get double takes. A
Okay.
lot of double takes. People, because I think people are so used to being sold to. I do a lot of work at markets, like in
Okay.
person,
Mhm.
like shows and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
people are like going through, used to being seeing ads and being sold to. So they're kind of like
Mhm.
glazed over initially. And then you're like, oh, I make vegan soap out of local craft beer. And they go, what? And it's
That's
funny
awesome.
because it's almost like a little inside joke every time. Like the customer gives me this look and I know it's coming and it's really funny. But yeah, it definitely like catches people off guard. I would say most
Yeah.
people have never heard of it before.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then so you do shows. What are some other things that you have done to like help market yourself?
I've tried everything.
Okay.
I mean, when you're so new, I think one of the hard things as like a small business owner is like without deep pockets, without like really big connections, you have to get super resourceful. So
Mhm.
I started out on Etsy. I have my own website. I'm not really on Etsy anymore, but I've
Mhm.
done a lot of work with markets just to try to be like top of mind and
Mhm.
get in front of the people that are like really my target audience.
Totally. What are some of the things that you have enjoyed or have worked well? Like even you just said like you don't do Etsy anymore. Is that because it wasn't working or like tell me more about that? Like your
Yeah.
decision making process.
So when I started on Etsy, it was just like kind of the place where everyone starts with the maker
Mhm.
community, you know. But I think the culture on Etsy changed a lot, and by the time I got into it, it just felt really oversaturated, especially with
Mhm.
like skincare and homemade makers. And it was kind of not really any necessarily any easier to get found on Etsy than it was just on your own website.
Mhm. What have been some other things that have worked well? So the markets have worked well.
Yeah, the markets have worked really well. That's been the biggest thing. And then like a lot of word of mouth, just
Mhm.
customers, referrals and stuff like that has been really
Mhm.
good. There's a
Okay.
lot of tourist shops in this area, so people will come to markets and scout for things to stock in their
Oh,
shops. So I've
yeah.
met some wholesale accounts that way. So yeah.
It's like productive like both in terms of retail and wholesale then. Like it sounds like
It
it's a really
is.
good option for you.
Right. Yeah, the biggest thing has just been like networking and like meet
Mhm.
finding ways to meet those people
Mhm.
and kind of getting creative with it.
Yeah,
So
that makes total sense. I mean, in the end, it's like, I think we've already talked about that a little bit, is that being an entrepreneur, like at first you think you're on your own, but once you realize that you have this community, and especially if you meet them through networking, that I think is one of the biggest ways to leverage, or one of the biggest things to leverage visibility,
yeah.
and other things. So I'm curious, like, did you ever see yourself running a business?
No. Um,
Okay.
it's funny to me how opposite that was. I literally used to call myself the worker bee type all the
Okay.
time, and I used to swear like I would never run my own business because I didn't think I would be motivated. Like I wouldn't think I'd
Uh-huh.
have that internal drive to like
Okay.
provide for myself and like sustain it. I like kind of like structure and being told what to do
Uh-huh.
sometimes, and there's a security in that, but I think um what I didn't realize is I just hadn't found something that I got really excited
Mhm.
about. So
Yeah.
that was not the plan originally, but I love it and I can't imagine ever going back now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it's kind of addicting. Like once you have embarked on the entrepreneurial journey, there's something that's really freeing about it, and that freedom I find like addicting a little bit. So
Oh yeah.
I get it. So I'm curious about like what does your week look like as a maker? Like you are making soap, you're going to markets, like how often do you have to make more soap? Or how often do you make more soap?
So that is super, super varied depending on the time of year. Like this is kind of the slower season right after
Mhm.
Christmas, first quarter. People tend to just not be spending as much. And then I ramp up over the summer with markets and events and
Mhm.
corporate accounts and stuff like that. And then it kind of peaks over Christmas and then restarts. So I will have some weeks where I am just pumping out soap every single day and I'm like
Mhm.
trying to keep up. And then other days where I'll go weeks without making soap and I'll be doing all sorts of admin stuff. And
So if somebody was just starting, or like if you were speaking to yourself like 2 years ago when you started, I guess 3 years now, but like what would you tell them in terms of like a piece of advice or like a piece? Yeah, what would you? How would you advise them if they were just starting?
oh, yeah, I really wish I could talk to myself a few years ago. I think I think I would just tell myself to get out of my head.
Okay.
Um, I really think I don't remember who said it, but I remember one of the podcasts I was listening to. Um, Someone said it's entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but everyone can do it. And I always really
Mhm.
liked that. Um, and I think you get so locked up, especially when you're starting out about like doing it right or
Mhm.
knowing the exact right next steps. Like, is it, registering your business or starting your bank account or like signing up for
Mhm.
QuickBooks, like really early on stuff, and you're
Mhm.
like, I don't know what to do. And I think I would just tell myself, like, do anything, do something,
Mhm.
because it matters so much less if you mess up or if you do things out of order than if you just like get stuck in the analysis paralysis.
Mhm.
Like you will improve drastically as long as you are doing something all the time. So I think spend less time just like sitting in that doubt and more time just like
Mhm.
doing anything, but being able to do it scared.
For sure. I love that. I think that the bottom line is that as entrepreneur, like you can't talk to an entrepreneur who hasn't messed up. Like there's none
Yeah.
of us exist. Like
Yeah.
and I think that even cuz I'm the same way where I've been like, oh, or even like hindsight is 2020 and like I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I should have hired that person before like this position before this
Hmm.
position. Like maybe I did myself a disservice.
Yeah.
But all of those, like, quote unquote mistakes are like what has brought us here. And so like
Yeah.
those are like stepping stones to like improve. And I really honestly
Hmm.
believe that. And so
Yeah.
but I also get paralyzed in the analysis. I've never read the book, but Marie Forleo has a book that says like the title is Everything is Figure Outable. And I say that to myself a lot because even what you were saying, like, do you set up your bank account first? Like, like registering, like, what does all of
Hmm.
this do? Like, yes, there are some things that have to be done in order, but almost everything is figure outable. And like, if you
Hmm.
did it out of order, like, it's not
There's
like
no
gonna
real
cause,
problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
And there's nothing I'm like, oh, I really, really regret how I did that.
mm-hmm.
There are things where I'm like, I probably could have not done that at all. Or I could have
Right.
like I put
Mm-hmm.
too much importance on this project and spent too much time on it. But it's also like, well, I mean, it did help me hash out things later on. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing that I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're gonna like massively regret. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
matter of like learning from it as you go.
For sure. For sure. I mean, like, even I think it was last year or the year before, I made a $7,500 investment and it did not like into like a program that I was like, this is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna make my money back. Did
Yeah.
not. I did not.
Yeah.
Everybody, I did not make my money
Oh,
back. And
yeah, I feel
it
that.
was like a hard pill to swallow, like where I was like really bummed, really upset with like the organization that I had like given the money to. But like I look back on that and I'm like, yes, does it still sting? Of course. could I like I would love to have that $7,500 back
Sure.
to do something else with it. But it's made me like a better decision maker now to like
Mhm.
really be like, okay, these were like the blind spots that I had when I made that decision.
Mhm.
So like like as I'm making this new investment, like am I like considering those blind spots? So
Yeah.
I do
You've
think
essentially
everything
paid yourself to become more discerning. It's
yeah.
not a bad thing.
I don't know if it
It's
was
just
worth
not
it,
quite ideal.
but
Maybe not.
I mean, like, I would still rather go on a vacation with that 7,500, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. And I think also like even one of our beliefs is like money, especially because that one's financial. Like you can always make more money. Like you'll all like
Yeah.
it's just a drop in the bucket. So,
Mhm.
sweet, I love it. So Elaine, if people want to connect with you, find you, buy your soap, like where should they go?
So my website is the most direct way to get to me. It's whitepinebathbrew.com. And if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at White Pine Bath Brew as well. And I
Awesome.
also have a newsletter they can sign up for where I do sales and updates on new scents, kind of follow along some of that small business journey, a little bit of my
Mhm.
story, all that kind of thing is great.
I love it. I love it. I'll have to sign up. Portland, Maine is on my places to go list because I've heard Maine is beautiful.
It's
And
wonderful.
we also want to go to Acadia. And so I did not know it was a microbrewery hotspot. So now my
Oh,
husband
yeah.
will be sold. So
I want to say oh, I have it written down somewhere. There's 100, this is like, I think, according to 2022 data, but 100
okay.
separate brewery brands across 165 locations in just the state.
Wow. That's
Like
wild.
you're gonna have beer. You've got your selection.
Well, a good thing. So that'll be next on our list, and we'll have to look you up. So,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, Elaine, thank you so much for sharing your time, your story with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.